Hello and welcome to Foresight. I'm your host, Ken Weaver. With me today is Mark Steele. Mark has been around for a while. He's been in business for last 12 years of his own working. But he was here as well, working with us here at SATV. And he also worked at GBH. And today we're going to be discussing what that was all like and getting into what he proposes to do here at SATV. Mark, welcome to SATV. Thank you very much for coming.
Sure, thanks. Nice to be back.
After knowing you for so long, I finally got you in front of the camera.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while.
Yep.
So in that time, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Salem? Are you a Salem?
No, I grew up in upstate New York, a town that a lot of people a little small town that a lot of people seem to know, Saugerties, New York. Its proximity to Woodstock was significant, but it's significant on its own right now. So I grew up in that Catskill area up there in upstate New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Albany.
Oh, you are?
So
you know Saugerties.
And I was at Woodstock.
See, you know Saugerties. I was too.
Yeah. So how did you find yourself over to Massachusetts? Was it straight to Boston area or to the North Shore? Or how did you get there?
The Boston area. When I first moved here, I moved to Canton, but I was just looking for stuff to do, in upstate New York, and the job prospects weren't fantastic. I was out of the Navy. I was 29 years old, and I was seeing some limitations into staying in upstate New York. So my sister lived in Boston, and she knew a guy who was in industrial real estate. He did big shopping centers, stuff like that. And he was looking for somebody to make videos for him. So that's what drew me here. That's what I came here to work for him for a short time. It was really good, but it didn't last a long time. And that's what brought me to Boston, and was I had dabbled in video before that.
Is this VHS time? Or
VHS, sure,
okay.
VHS, yep. Sure. And but that's what got me going seriously in video.
Right.
But back in New York, when I lived in a place called Stone Ridge, I took out a loan for $1,200, 1979, which seemed like a lot of money at that time.
It was.
And I bought a camera and a portable VHS deck. And I was one of the first, maybe not the first, but one of them. Everyone was like, wow, and I shot everything. I shot all kinds of stuff, and I loved it. I just loved the technology. And then I borrowed someone else's VHS deck, so I had two of them, so I could do rough edits and stuff. And it was crude, but that was really my start.
So that's what got you out there to be with people and to deal with them in front of the camera, right? So.
Yes, well, a lot of I had friends who were in bands, in the music business.
Sure.
So that's been a theme for me until today, or up until continuing through today.
Right.
Is making videos of music of people performing. But that's not all I did. But that's my love.
So were there any pop bands or that we would? Perhaps
no, probably not. Probably not bands you would know. They were local bands, and
from the area of where?
From the upstate New York, of Poughkeepsie. Woodstock. That area. So but not
great bands there.
Yeah, but I was it was early on, and I wasn't in with the top bands.
Okay.
I did work for a time at Bearsville Studios, but I was a technician. I wasn't an engineer or anything like that. I repaired their amplifiers and.
So you're getting a really ground start and learning how the business up.
Yeah, just a toe in the business there, So, but when I moved to Boston area, when I moved to this area, Greater Boston area, was when I seriously got into video.
Right.
And doing the real estate videos was good. It was like even to this day, when I work and I do more corporate style videos. They're not necessarily interesting to people outside of that specific group. But to me, as in production, I love the production end of it. I love the microphones, the lights, the cameras, setting things up, the aesthetic of how you set up a shot, the technology. It's a nice combination of technology and aesthetics.
Right.
You know,
Yes,
it's
yes.
a balance
Sure, sure.
of things. You have to get all your technology right. You got to lay the groundwork, get your cameras set up right, your microphone levels, that kind of stuff, all the tech, before you can start making things look pretty, you know?
Right.
And so that's what I like. I really like that. You know, I like that aspect of it, that balance, you know? So,
So Boston area, you hit when? What years were you?
good question. I would say 1982. 1982, I think, maybe 83.
Okay.
But
So you went where you're still doing the industrial?
well, at that time I was like I said, I was hired by that man who had industrial real estate
Right.
holdings, and he was building things and acquiring. So you know, he had his needs for videos, but then eventually that didn't work out for him. But I worked for a local production company called Multivision, who's no longer in business.
Right.
But I went from working for the industrial real estate guy to Multivision. And it was funny because I remember I knew that the one job was coming to an end.
Right.
And I went in the yellow pages of the phone book, if we remember what that is. And I went to video production companies, and I went down and I was calling. And you know, you would get a secretary, or you would get somebody whose job was to answer the phones. You would get nowhere, right?
Right.
But when I dialed Multivision, I got the owner. He picked up the phone, Donald O'Sullivan, and he's a great guy. And they said, "Oh, that sounds interesting." I had the Navy background where I was in electronics.
Right.
I had a little bit of experience in video shooting, editing. I had taken a course in editing at Boston Film and Video Foundation, BFVF. I don't know if people you remember that. I don't even know if it's still in existence.
I don't know if it's still in existence, but I remember it. I remember hearing about it.
But I, you know, always had been doing stuff like that. So I ended up with an interview at Multivision, and I went in and I was like, "This is where I want to work. This is like so cool." They had 1-inch tape machines, real open reel 1-inch tape machines, broadcast quality 3/4 inch at that time. It was you know, 16? They had beautiful suites, you know, that were designed, you know, built by a shipbuilder. So all the wood was nice, and it was gorgeous, with glass windows and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, this is where I want to work. And in fact, they hired me, and I worked there for 2.5 years, I think. And I learned CMX editing. I don't know, you know, I don't want to, I mean, I could get deep into technology, technical things. So in the early days of editing, computer-aided editing, CMX was the main. There were other ones, but CMX was the primary computer-aided editing. And at that time, the computer in the edit room was the only computer in the whole business.
And who made the computer?
It was made by Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC.
Right.
And we had, it was like, I could go, you know, we had things called intelligence interfaces, IIs, I-squareds. We had sync generators. We had it was like the technology was really quite complex at that time. And to learn the computer, to learn the technology of everything had to have a sync generated, you know, black burst and sync, and so, and the 1 inches were one type of had color framing issues and stuff like that, and it was a ton of stuff to learn. And I was inundated with it, but I loved it, and it took me a long time. And you know, I remember my first edit alone, you know, with a client, alone in the room with a client, and. It was like, I don't know what they charged. It was like $300 an hour or something, and the pressure was on, and it was very, very stressful. And you know, but you had to learn to deal with the stress. So you had the technology, you had the stress, you had the client, you had the, you know, all that stuff, and it was quite an experience. But you know, it was good, and I learned quite a bit there, and I thought that I learned a lot. I did learn a lot, but I thought, I got this, right? You know, and then
technology change.
I went to WGBH after 2.5 years, and I decided that I would apply there, and sure enough, they needed somebody, you know. Frankly, I was pretty burned out by the schedule at Multivision.
Right.
And when I look back on it now, it was funny because GBH is kind of a straight-laced place. And I was not a straight-laced looking guy, you know.
Right.
I had cowboy boots and jeans and long hair and a leather jacket and stuff. And I was like totally pretty much fried. And I went in for the interview and I was like, oh man, you know. And they, at the end of the interview, they didn't even wait, right? They said, when can you start?
Wow.
And I was like, maybe how's next Wednesday?
So you're walking in with a resume and
well, no, I had applied. They called me. I had
right.
applied,
Okay.
and they called me to come in. But that was my first introduction to it, you know.
Sure.
And so I spent 24 years there. It was great. I worked on, you know, it was.
So what were some of the highlights of doing all that and working?
Well, I worked on Frontline when it was new. I didn't work on the first, you know, Frontline was already established for a couple of years when I started there in '86.
Right.
But I worked on almost all the front lines for about 12, 14 years or something. And I did online. I did the online process, which is a very specific part of the editing. In those days, you would do what was called offline. So the producer would sit with an offline editor and they would edit 3/4-inch tape back and forth with burned in time code, which some of you may know what that is. And then they would fine tune their show as best as possible in that kind of crude editing. And then they would bring a handwritten list of time code to me in the online room. And I would work with an audio engineer and a Chiron operator, a character generator Chiron operator. The producer would sit in the room. Usually there was an assistant editor or an editor in the room, you know, the offline editor. And so there was a whole group of people in this room that looked like a cockpit to a 747 or something, you know. And out there behind the glass windows were 4 open reel 1-inch tape machines, a rack with 3 3/4-inch machines in it.
Right.
I had a big switcher, all this stuff. It was, you know, it was quite intimidating. And so I was the final step in the process before the show went on air.
So you were the finished guy.
Yeah, so typically a producer would work with an offline editor for anywhere from a couple of months on a short show, you know, short turnaround, to a couple of years, a year and a half on putting their show together. They would bring it to me, and in those days, it would take about a week to put it together.
Yep.
Yeah, so we would sit with the client for about a week putting together a 1-hour show. And I would do basic color. I didn't have sophisticated color correction, but we had time-based color correction.
Okay.
You know, TBC,
Okay. Yep.
a time-based corrector, and it had hue and saturation and video levels and stuff built into it. And so we would do that type of color correction and get the show looking as good as it could be. The audio levels correct. All the PBS had very strict technical specifications with video levels, black levels, white levels, chroma, audio peaks, stuff like that.
Now, is that normal in the industry?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. All
separate
broadcast, especially in the analog days,
Right.
there were, because if the video got too hot, if the chroma and the video got too hot, it would actually bleed into the audio.
Right.
You know, because they're all on their own frequencies.
Yeah, right.
And you know, so if chroma got too hot, you'd hear a in the audio. You know, and so you had to have all your stuff like just right. And then the show had to look good too. I mean, it wasn't just it had to look good, you know.
Yeah.
And then you had to match all the flesh tones and make sure that the video levels, you know, which we still do today. But back then it was a bit of a, you know, it was a thing. So anyway, so GBH, I worked on Nova, Frontline, American Experience. I did the first American Experience. I did the first Antiques Roadshow. I worked on This Old House and Victory Garden, and I'm leaving out a lot of stuff, but you know, all the shows that GBH did, I would have a handle on them, you know, in the end.
At
you
one
know,
point or another.
Yeah, before they hit air. You know, there were other editors there too, but I saw almost all the shows before they hit air. So you know, it was exciting, and it was the top of the industry. You know, I mean, I had, you know, any given week, I had like, you know, credits on 5 or 6, you know,
Different
primetime
shows.
TV shows, you know.
Wow.
So it was nice. It was, you know, it was PBS. It wasn't ABC or NBC, but still in all, it was good. And there were.
I was watching PBS back then.
I liked the shows too, and it certainly didn't hurt
Right.
that I really liked Frontline. Frontline was a great show, and
It
you know,
still
Nova's,
is. Yeah.
and
Nova.
and Masterpiece Theater. I leave that out, and
Yes, you did.
you know, so you know, it was a good run. It was a really good run.
Wow.
But you know, time moves on.
Time moves
but
on.
during that time,
Yes.
we could go, you know, but maybe we could segue into
Sure.
SATV, because
By all means.
in what, 1994 you said we
Yep.
started here?
Yes. Yep.
I had thought it was a little earlier, but you know better than I do. So in 1994 we opened these, you guys or somebody opened these studios here, and I was like, wow, this is nice.
First class.
Yeah. And I came down and I met Julie Doherty,
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
who everybody here in Salem knows Julie, and we became good friends, still friends today. And we did one of the many shows that were done out of this studio right here, Songwriters on the Round, in 1994. And I think probably, you know, I'm not sure, but maybe 2 or 3 years we did that show. We had 27 shows.
Right.
And it was Julie's idea, based on something she had seen at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, to do Songwriters on the Round.
Oh, that's interesting.
And we started with local musicians, singer-songwriters, and I can't remember them all, but Satch Cairns was one, and Steve Sadler was on our band, and Woody Woodward and Richie Grace, who unfortunately has passed away, and Julie were and then we invited David Mallet. I'm on the spot here. I can't remember all the people, but
Cooper was one.
and then so we had local people, and I was like really amazed by the local talent, how good they are. It was just like, wow.
Yeah, which they still are.
Yeah, they still are. But then we did have Al Cooper on, which was really nice. But the first, we had David Mallet, who I would say, it's hard to say who's higher profile than one guy. But Chris Smither was coming to town. Oh. And I said, I'm going to contact him. Now, I think it might have been, we had email back then in 94, didn't we? I forget how. I must have.
No.
I must have.
I don't think so.
I don't think I called him. But whatever it was, I contacted Chris Smither. And I said, we do a local cable access show here in Salem, and you're coming to perform. Would you come up a little early and stop in the studio, and we can tape a show? And he goes, sure. I'm like, wow.
People should do that more often today.
Yeah.
They want to do something like that. Get a hold of the artists who are coming in and invite them in.
Yeah. So I was thrilled.
Sure.
Chris Smither came in. We had Chris Smither. Wow. So then based on that, we said, geez, let's try, Tommy Makem.
Yeah.
And we got a hold of Tommy Makem. He's also passed away, lived in New Hampshire, and he came down. So we had Tommy Makem. It was like a big name,
Yeah, yeah.
And then Al Cooper. We had Noel Stuckey. And it was great, But it was a lot of work for me to do the show here.
Because you were producing as well as.
Well, Julie and I produced it together, but I directed it.
Right.
And then I took the switched VHS tape.
Right.
That we recorded in there, and then my wife shot another camera. We had 3 or 4 cameras, so she shot a 4th camera.
Handheld. Yeah.
Handheld. She got up on the ladder and got overhead shots, got tight shots. Yeah, so I would bring that to WGBH and edit that together, add the titles and everything, and do the audio mix. After I finished my regular day of work at WGBH, I would sit in the suite and do Songwriters on the Round.
Doing that.
And
that's a lot of time.
it was a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. So I was very happy to have done that, and I think that was, But we have a clip. Oddly enough, I have a clip of, I got to write this up. And I have a Songwriters on the Round clip here. And I've like I say, we had 27 shows. And this clip is, it's 2 minutes and 40 seconds long. And it's just a couple of short pieces from 2 of the Songwriters on the Round shows. So let me play that.
Love was a burning flame. Sometimes it's hard to remember.
So that's right here.
That's right where we are. Yes. Bigger room.
A little bigger.
The big room is a lot bigger.
This is called Help Me Now. I've been a fool of singing the cool all by myself.
Looks pretty good.
That's great.
Nobody shows me how I was born that way. Every day's a solo played on a single string. Nobody shows up, nobody walks away.
Bittersweet.
This is John Lincoln Wright.
The memory of your tender kisses, my tender love.
I was trying to write sort of a Hoagie Carmichael kind of tune, and I struggled through it for years, and I couldn't get it right. I had too many words, too many pieces to it. So I got together with Larry last year, and I said, Larry, I'm in big trouble on this. Let's see if we can figure out which lines to get rid of, which chords to throw.
It was a nice collaboration.
And so I call it Merle Haggard and Tony Bennett at Hoagie Carmichael's house. So,
That's good.
we work all our lives and forget why we do it, when deep down inside we would rather be through it. Too scared to look back and admit that we blew it. I'm getting out now, tell the coop that I flew it, and there's flies on the screen.
I remember this
in the
so
heat
clearly,
of the day.
doing this, you know, I mean, it's like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
To say for a
Definitely
while.
left the mark.
Yeah.
No
let's say-
pun intended.
Yeah. So that's so that was a couple of clips from Songwriters on the Round.
That was great.
And, you know, I have very fond memories of doing that. I met a lot of nice people that I still am in contact with today.
That's great.
And based on that,
Yep.
let me see what my next. Don White.
Oh, done.
I met Don White. Don White was a guest on Songwriters on the Round, and so he's a great guy, you know. And I was taken by his music, his style, his storytelling, and so I remember this because it was the first day I had my cell phone, right? First day I had my cell phone, and I said, I'm going to take a walk in Swampscott for some exercise. I'm going to have my new cell phone with me, right? And so darned if it doesn't ring, right? You know?
Yeah.
And it was my friend Bill who called me and said, Mark, I got a job. I'm gonna do a show with Ronnie Earl, and I want you to direct it and edit it and stuff. And I go, oh yeah, that's great, Bill.
Ron Earl.
That's awesome. Let's do that. So I got my job on my
your
cell
cell
phone. And then I'm walking down the beach a little further, and I run into Don White.
Oh,
and he's
jeez.
walking on the beach with his wife.
Yeah.
Hi, Don. How you doing? Oh, yeah, great. Oh, nice to see you. He goes, Mark, I had this idea. I want to do a 90-minute show. I want to record my performance and somehow release it, right?
Sure.
And it was in the early days of DVD, and I think it was funny because back then, Don and I have spoken about this recently. During the process of doing his first show, that I've done 3 or 4 with him subsequently, DVD was like so new that it was very expensive, and we're like, oh, I don't know if we can do DVD, you know. And then all of a sudden, during the couple of months we were working, the prices
went right down,
went down to make it like very feasible that we could. So I bought, I forget what the program was, but I bought DVD making software.
Right.
And I learned all about that, making the chapters and everything. And so I've subsequently worked with Don on a number of shows over the years. And I have four concerts of his that I've done. And so I have some clips of that.
That's great. Yeah.
Shall we?
Absolutely.
Is it time to watch the Don White show?
Absolutely.
All right. So these are.
Got some popcorn in the other room.
So this is this is 2 minutes and 44 seconds, and they're just clips from 3 or 4 of the shows I've done with Don.
Oh yeah.
This was the first one in the year 2000.
Shooting on the 6 o'clock news, they fired 15 bullets at one poor dude. He took one on the finger and one on the shin. The other 13 bullets all missed him, so we called him up at the
I want to sing along with this.
Go ahead, blow at it.
So, this was shot on DV cam
And whereabouts is this shot?
at Watertown.
in your head, 50 bullets in your head. Oh, what wonderful luck you've got. The guy that tried to kill you was a terrible shot, and it's a great day to not be dead. Shoo-doo-wop, shoo-wop, doo-wop.
This was shot at Jimmy Tingle's Theater in Somerville.
I'm going to say a lot of things tonight, but the only true thing I'm going to say is this next thing right here. And I want all my dads out here to pay attention, because you're going to know how funny this is. But it's going to be so funny, and you're going to want to laugh so hard. But I'm going to recommend to you that you do not.
I have such distinct memories of all these productions because, because you're really...
Well, you're involved in it. I mean, this is, you're not just a bystander.
Here's the one truth of this evening. If I have my wife on one side and my daughter on the other side, and they're both talking to me, honest to God, if I close my eyes, I can't tell which one is talking.
So this was shot in Framingham. This is better quality.
This is a song that I wrote after my son went to college, and my wife realized that there wasn't going to be any buffer between us anymore. It was a very difficult moment for Mrs. White, and she's so happy that I travel around the country sharing it with strangers. Here we go. Rascal is the dog, he ain't too bright. Me and Rascal were sitting on the couch last night when my woman come in and she started to cry. She looked at us with such terror in her eyes. She said, I have raised these children for 18 years while you have done nothing.
So that's it for Don. He's great. He's still a friend of mine today, and I do a lot of work with him. I haven't worked with him recently, but I shot a thing with my new cameras, which are 4K mirrorless cameras, and out at the Guthrie Center. So I have this whole concert. But the distribution of it now, nobody's buying DVDs, and so it's like, what are we going to do with it? We're not sure what we're going to do with it. But anyway, so the technology in those 3 clips, the first one was shot on DV cam tape.
Okay.
And it was digital.
Right.
But DV cam in the back of the, and we thought it was so cool back then. Have those those DV camcorders.
Oh yeah.
And actually, it's not bad. And 4x3, not 16x9, and then editing an early version of Final Cut Pro, maybe the first version of Final Cut Pro.
Right.
And
big advancement.
Yeah, I'm putting that show together, and it looked good. Now the second one was shot on HDV, so similar to DV cam, but it was HD.
Right.
However, at that time, I didn't have the ability to edit HD. Final Cut was not, so I had to, even though the tapes are HD, I had to edit it in standard def. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, although the performance is good, and I think the show holds up, oddly enough, that show doesn't look that good to me.
Not sharp.
It's not sharp. It's kind of, it's like.
Yeah.
So interesting. The technology drives a lot of stuff.
Right,
Then the third one was with a camera that I no longer have, but it was not 4K, but it was 1080, shot to an SD card. It was all digital. It was a Panasonic. I had three Panasonic cameras that all matched, and then I had another camera for the audience, audience shots.
Sure.
That was a different camera, but because it was a different angle and everything, and
It was okay.
it edited together. And that show, I think that show looks terrific. I'm very happy with that show. So again, it's the technology kind of drives where we are.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's setting the meter and how far you can go and what you can get out of it.
Right. And it always seemed to be the newest thing. So, it was like, how does this work?
Yeah, the learning curve starts again.
Yeah. And the editing platform, Final Cut, I work in Premiere as well. But, everything, keeps rising. And then we look back and go, that stuff, but at the time,
it was the highest quality.
Yeah, it was
because you're always traveling at the highest quality.
Yeah.
You're not going to
Within
buy
a budget.
something that's within the budget.
Within a budget.
Right.
And today I have 5 cameras at home, and they're all capable of doing 4K. And one is an ENG style camera, which is really good for handheld, kind of walking around kind of stuff. And 2 of them are older cameras now, but they still work really well. They're Panasonic GH4s. And, I bought those a while ago, and they have a 4/3 sensor, right? I don't know if people, this, but I go over it quickly.
That's a little over my head, but
and
okay.
They make a nice image.
Oh, yeah.
But it's hard to get that shallow depth of field where the background, we're also used to having an interview where the face is sharp, but the background's out of focus.
Right.
With those cameras, I have a lens that will do it, but I have to get pretty far away.
Oh.
And so then I have, now I have 2 cameras that have full frame sensors. And also Panasonic. I stay with Panasonic, not because it's good.
Right.
Not because it's better than Sony or Canon or anything, but you kind of get used to
A particular
a menu format, and you get used to the Panasonic way of doing things.
Sure.
So it's nice to and then I can make my new S5 match exactly with my GH4.
Right.
Now matching exactly with the ENG camera is a little tricky, and but I can handle that in color correction and the editing to match them up. But so now I have, and I occasionally will use all 5 cameras on a shoot.
Oh wow.
And so anyway, we're getting a little
technical there.
yeah. But
Is there any more music?
I have quite a few.
Yeah.
Let's see what
Can
we
we
got.
do another one?
Let's
yeah,
see
what we got.
The next one I have here is, well, this is good because I did this, I left GBH in 2010, and I shot this in 2009. This is a group, I'll give you a little lead into it.
Okay.
There's a man in Cambridge whose name is Bob Childs, and he makes violins. He's a violin maker. And he realized that there were a whole group of people out there that all played Bob Childs violins. So he put a group together called Child's Play.
Great.
Bob Child's Play. And they all play Bob Child's
Violins.
And then in the group also are a couple of guitars. I don't think he made the guitars, and some cellos, and there are other instruments, but it's primarily violins.
Right.
And so based on the technical success, the fact I was able to pull it off, doing the Don White 3 cameras and stuff, and edit it at home.
Yeah,
I took on the task of recording Child's Play performance at Somerville Theater. Okay. And but the game, the ante got upped quite a bit.
Oh.
And because we thought we were going to get it on the air, which is a whole nother thing, but it's definitely of a good quality to getting things broadcast is a whole nother realm of
a major,
So, but anyway, so I had 4 Panasonic cameras, and we had a boom. We had a nice little budget, so we put a boom up in in those little side balconies they had
Sure.
there. So,
Yep, yep.
and then we had a camera at the back of the theater.
Oh,
I had a camera in the first tier of the balcony, and I was operating a camera like hiding behind the curtains and stuff and getting
Behind the
shots
shot,
from
yeah,
behind.
yeah.
So we had
Oh,
4
that's great.
cameras,
Yeah.
all HD.
I like that perspective.
And we shot this, and it turned out, in my opinion, terrific. It was like, yeah. So I brought this, which we'll see here.
Okay.
I was really proud of it, and you know, I was like, wow. It was a lot of work to get it done and get it edited and finished and all that. And I brought it to work to show to the guys I worked with, and I took it to the guys in the studio, and they were like, wow, this is good. I said, Mark, you just put us all out of work. So if you could, what was your budget on that thing?
Yeah, about $185.
It was like, you know, a couple thousand bucks. You know, it was like
right.
it was like minuscule.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
And they were, of course, we didn't put them out of business. But anyway, so that was. But so here's that clip.
Sure.
There's a couple of this again is a little over 2 minutes of different clips from Child's Play.
When I was up in Maine making fiddles with Ivy Mann, we'd often finish a violin and take it down to an old friend of Ivy's named Otto Soper. And Otto had been a traveling musician for many, many years and had many pearls of wisdom. Among them, he'd often say that music will take you places that money won't, and you'll make all your great friends through music.
It was actually when I got together with Rashad and Keith Murphy that we kind of started playing it together, and that they just kind of got this really great groove going. And over the chords, I had kind of given them the chords, and then they just rocked out on it.
You know, Hanukkah Castle, who's like this incredibly rhythmic player. I mean, that's kind of like one of the amazing things in her playing is just, you know, how strong and driving her rhythm is. So I always love playing Waiting for the Dawn with her because it's just such a powerful groove.
As I watched this, I remember the stress level that I had in taping this show.
Oh, way over yonder down a Katy Creek, a wheeling on a fiddle from a wagon seat. I tune my fiddle and I rising my bow and I play a little tune wherever I go.
Sleepy Owl John.
Better get your britches on,
Sleepy Owl John.
let's tie your shoes.
Sleepy Owl John.
Better get your britches on, try to get to heaven before the devil gets you.
So that was Child's Play.
great. Wow.
Yeah, and that was great. And, you know,
That came out wonderful.
yeah, that was very happy with that show, and so I was, you know, I felt like I was, you know, off and running on there, you
Yeah,
know,
sure.
and left GBH and kind of went out on my own, and I met a guy who's become a close friend of mine, Jeff Hoffman, out of Marblehead. And he was starting his company, which he called Squash House. And Jeff and I worked together. We did some great videos, like industrial or corporate style videos, and that's a tough market, you know.
Sure.
He's a
Competitive.
he's from Marblehead, but he went out to California and Vancouver and things, and he was a Hollywood style cameraman. Film,
Right.
you know, 35 millimeter film. Made the transition to video. So he came back to Marblehead, so it was good. I learned a lot. You always learn. I'm always like, you know, you never stop, you know?
That's right.
And so working with Jeff at that point was very good, but it wasn't lucrative. In other words, the bills weren't getting paid and stuff like that. So, it's a long drawn out. It's a funny story about, at that point I was 64, 5'4", something like that, 64 probably or something. And I'm like, I better, it's a little earlier than I had planned, but I better go on Social Security, right?
Right.
So we did that. And then I may have, my memory of this may be a little not exactly accurate, but I got a phone call. Anyway, I'm in my car, and the old cell phone again. I get a phone call from a guy, John, who I used to work with at WGBH. I go, hey, John. I was a surprise. I was like, hey, well, how you doing, John? And he goes, Mark. He goes, what are you doing? I go, oh, I'm retired. He goes, no, you're not. I go, what? He goes, I'm working at Harvard. He goes, we're working in a group called Harvard X, and would like you to come in here and work with us. You know, we have 13 editors, and we have 2 production teams, and we need someone who knows the business to come help us out. And kind of, you know, they were doing okay. They were doing good, you know, but to kind of like pull it all together, oversee what was going on and stuff. And so I went and I worked there for, I think 3 years, and we did some fabulous work there.
So what's Harvard? What exactly?
Well, Harvard has, without exaggeration, hundreds, probably over 100 video production things. Well, this was one of them, right? Oh. So I touched base with them, but I only have familiarity with this one.
Right.
And it's called Harvard X, and it was to bring the Harvard courses, those courses that were taught at Harvard, the law school, just everywhere,
Science,
you know, government, everything, online, to create online courses. So it wasn't just going we didn't do any classroom stuff. It was all in the studio. We'd go on location, and you know, we did. You know, I went with a professor that taught American government. We took a trip to Washington D.C. and you know, we went and shot in front of the White House, and shot in front of the Capitol, and shot in front of the, you know, the EPA and the Federal Reserve and the Lincoln Memorial. We had this great, you know, 3 days in Washington shooting these stand-ups. It was really
beautiful
good.
City.
And then you know, they said to me, I had only been there a week early. You know, I was like, and again, it's a learning process. They had different cameras than I was used to. They had Canon C100s, which is a beautiful camera, but I was unfamiliar with it. You know, I mean, it takes a while to learn cameras, learn the different menus in the cameras.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you know, it's not just hit record and go. You have to, you know. So they said, oh, we have a gig for you. We're shooting Bill Clinton. You're going to go to New York and shoot Bill Clinton. 3 cameras. And I go, oh, okay. I said, well, who are my camera people? You know, and they go, what are you talking about? It's you. And I go, I'm not comfortable with that. They gave me an assistant, right? And so I went down, 2 of us, and that's a lot, you know. Anyway, and we got it done. You know, we got it done. There was one mistake that still kind of irks me at this point, because it was Bill Clinton. It was high-level stuff.
Right.
The cameras were set up in a thing that I was unfamiliar with, called Vlog. I don't know, you know. And when I brought it home, I was like, I was like, wow, this picture looks terrible. I was unfamiliar. Right. It's a thing. It's a technological thing in shooting. People shoot to accentuate definition in the black level and also in the white levels. And it essentially initially makes the picture look terrible until you work on it. Yeah. Right. So anyway, but anyway, that's another thing. And then they said, oh, we're going to go shoot. We're going to go down to D.C. again, and we're going to shoot. That was the first time. We're going to shoot John McCain. You know. So I was like, oh, great. So I went down and I shot John McCain, and then a few things.
And by then you're more familiar with the cameras.
Yeah, more familiar at that point, and more comfortable with the thing. So the Harvard thing was really, really good. You know,
so diverse.
And but the commute was terrible. I was like an hour and a half each way from Salem to
Harvard.
Cambridge.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I was at least 3 hours, if not more, in the car every day. And that kind of burned me out after a while. So,
Yeah.
so I left there on, it was good terms and everything, but but it was time for me to like take a break. And I was, I have to, how old I was, I forget. I was old. I was 67 or 66 or something, and time to stop commuting.
Yeah.
So when I left Harvard, I said I'm going to start doing little videos on my own that I want to do.
Right.
I'm not going to worry about commercial success or where they're going to air, or where they're going to do this or whatever. I'm just going to shoot these videos, and I'm going to sit with basically people I know, friends of mine, or people who are acquaintances of mine.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it sounds like Songwriters on the Round, doesn't it?
Yes.
And they're going to talk about their music.
Right.
And if they feel like picking up the guitar, they can do that.
Sure.
But basically the idea is to have a little conversation with them about the music, and then get them to play 3 songs, and then in editing I'll bring it all together. So, and I came up with the idea to call it Resonance, and I have a Vimeo page with all my, I don't know how many I have right now, I have like 15 of them now. And I have them, but it's like, where do you put these things? How do you get them out there to the public? But anyway, I like them. People who see them generally like them.
Sure.
And I got to meet people who I wouldn't normally have met.
Yeah, that's right.
And so let me play a clip from that.
Okay.
My dad was a musician. My grandfather was a musician. My older brother was a musician. And
He's a great guy.
music seemed to be everywhere. What drew me personally to it, what it did for me, is probably something that I don't know that I could answer it in one complete sentence, because it's very deep. Deliver me from this mortal grave, and take me away where I'll feel safe. What gives anyone a unique sound is not particularly the guitar or the amp that they're using. Those are peripheral. Those help push the sound. But the actual tone and sound, the reason why you know it's a certain particular guitar player, is by who's playing. Ain't nothing like the sound of a 45, like a rolling stone in rain. 66, 65.
I have to remember what key it's in. That's it. There's so many things to bring it to mind. I might be in the wrong key, but.
I mean, this guy's great. This guy is like a genius.
Yeah.
Well, recently I have this friend, and she said to me that she's very stressed out. So that caused me to write a song, a line. If only we were machines, we could take it. We wouldn't have to feel a thing. That would be it. If only we were machines, we could take it. We wouldn't have to feel a thing. If only there was no one else, I could make it. I wouldn't have to do things the way they do.
So that's so I have like, I don't know how many of those I have. I have like 15 of them or something. But the nice thing about that for me is it's just me.
Right.
I go.
Right.
Now my nephew helped me on the third camera there, but I go, and it's just me. It's all. I don't have to worry about, some producer or somebody else. Right. I'm the producer. I'm the camera person. Yeah. I'm the audio guy for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I occasionally have some help on the audio, and then I take it home, and I edit it, and I mix it, and no one tells me nothing.
It's all you.
And I do have friends in the business who I respect their opinion,
Sure.
And like for those videos early on, I sent them to them, and they were like, "Oh, well, we'd like to see, a cutaway. We'd like to see a photograph of them or something." And I'm thinking, I understand what you're saying, but you know what? I'm not doing that. I want these to be stripped down, basic, and like in Sal Baglio's video there,
right.
The last song he does is 45, and I just stayed right on that one camera. I didn't go to any, I didn't edit it. I didn't do anything. It was just that one camera, him playing that song for the whole song, and in post, you shoot in 4K, it gives you some flexibility.
Sure.
So I had a wider shot. And for the whole song, which is probably, I'm not sure how long, but let's say 3 minutes or something like that,
sure.
I did a slow push-in. So it's just this very, very, very gradual push-in from a wide shot to a medium shot.
Right.
And I loved it. I think most people like it, but, if people don't like it, that's too bad. I mean,
it's a style that you use. I mean, whenever, and that's your art. That's why it's different. That's why it may seem a little odd, but then you realize, it's not. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's complete, and it's relative.
I guess, the ideal would be if somebody looked at a video and said, "That's a Mark Steele video." I don't know if I have that. I don't know if I've achieved that, but that would be the ultimate compliment,
Sure.
But then Andy Pratt I was on a job. I was on a regular job, and we were at a place because we were recording people telling stories on the stage for a company that had that as an activity for their.
But it wasn't stories from the stage.
No, it was not that. It was similar to that. It was based on that kind of. It was like a TED Talk kind of thing or something.
Oh, okay.
But it was for this company, for their employees and stuff. Anyway.
Oh, I see.
And so we're there in this kind of theater place, right? And this guy walks in, and I go, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "Hi." And he hands me his card. He goes, "Hi, I'm Andy Pratt." He goes, rock and roll legend or something like that, right? And I go, "Okay, thanks." And then it was like, Andy Pratt. I'm like, that was Andy Pratt? I'm like, oh my God.
So, he is a legend.
so when I was done with my gig, I was like, he was in the cafe. So I was like, Andy, I go, "Would you like to do a video?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll do a video." So that's
how you got to.
So getting to know him was great.
It's funny how things in life happen like that.
Yeah.
It's called random.
Yes, it's random.
It's very random.
It is random, and maybe it's luck or something like that. But if you don't get out there and act, if you don't put yourself,
you don't participate.
Yeah, you don't put yourself in a place where random things are going to happen to you or luck is going to happen. It's not all luck. There's some randomness to it, but you have to be active and you have to be out and you have to be involved. And,
because if you didn't take that step to go out of the door, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
The whole thing is to be there.
Yep. So let's see what all these things. Oh, so talking about that, right? And back to SATV. SATV seems to be a focal point for a lot of this. My neighbor does a show that he did in Somerville, but he lived in Somerville or he lived in Cambridge or something, but he did it out of Somerville local access.
Right.
But he lives in Salem now, so now he does it here.
Oh.
And it's that heavy leather rock and roll show,
yes.
Ken?
I'm familiar with it. I have not seen. I have not seen it yet.
So it's a pretty wild show.
Yeah.
It's a pretty wild show. And he's my neighbor. He lives right across the street from me.
Oh.
So I was like, hey, how you doing? And we got talking about this and that. And I said, well, I could help you. I could help you out with that. And so we shot these things. We shot, he has a section of his larger show. It's called All Sales Vinyl.
Right. Right.
And which is a very clever title, All Sales Vinyl, but it's vinyl records.
Yep.
And so we went over, and Cammie, I don't know if you know Cammie Whammy, she was here, and so it was Ken and Cammie, and they did this. So you'll see, and it was like, again, it was like something a little different than I had done, but it was used. I had my cameras and I had my audio recording equipment and the ability to edit. So why not try it? So I went over to his living room and we shot these things, and they're very clever, a lot of fun.
I've seen this.
You've seen everything, Ken.
Ooh, what's this one?
Oh, you want to check it out?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Awesome. This is a great one. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of All Sales Vinyl, where we show you the hottest new vinyl releases. I got a really cool one to show you this week. It's the latest edition of the Brown Acid series. This is the 8th trip.
You know the history of brown acid at Woodstock?
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. So there you go. There's a little of attack from Brown Acid, the 8th trip. Check this one out, and all of the previous volumes, they're all on Riding Easy Records. And while we're here, Cammie, let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back.
Do it.
To 1971 with this track from the 2nd trip of Brown Acid. Here's Midnight Witch from Ash on the Heavy Leather Music Video Show.
That's my neighbor Ken and my friend Cammie, and so they do that show, and anyway, so that was fun.
Yeah,
and I really like the the fact that it looks good, sounds good,
Yes, it does. Yeah.
and it's a fun little thing to do, and it's right here on SATV.
Yeah. So you want to do things at SATV. Why don't we get into that?
What I'd like to do for the course is I'll cover things like pre-production. Like, what do you have to do? I mean, that's kind of the dry part of the part. But if you do it correctly, it's not so dry. It's actually
and
fun.
it saves time later on
Oh,
if you do it right.
It's a total necessary
Absolutely.
step.
Yep.
And then I want to talk about the camera. I want to talk about the different cameras that are out there, all the way from the iPhone to a high-end camera. The different lenses, zoom lenses, prime lenses.
How to use those.
You know, what lens is right for which situation. We'll go over audio, different microphones, lavaliers, shotguns, Neumann mics for recording music, stuff like, condenser mics, dynamic mics, all that kind of stuff. And then lighting.
Right.
Lighting is the thing that came to me in my career later on. I never did lighting. Lighting is pretty tricky to get good lighting. So we got the pre-pro, we got the cameras, we got the audio, we got the lighting, and then we have editing. Now, I'm assuming that people are going to have some basic kind of idea about editing. And so I'll help them a little bit with the editing and talk about editing techniques, and we'll have a little lighting seminar, audio seminar, camera, pre-pro editing. What I would like people to do is to shoot stuff. I want people to bring stuff in, and we'll all sit around and we'll look at what you've done. So we'll get all those aspects of it together, like the starting date and all that stuff. And so I'm looking forward to that. It'd be fun for me to do that.
I think I think it's an opportunity that people who are interested in doing it to begin with, to have you be involved in it. That's got to be an appreciation factor that should work really well.
Well, that's nice of you to say. I mean, that's good.
I've seen your work.
So that's fine. I'm enthusiastic. I'm enthusiastic about it. I think, you know, and I do have, you know, 40 years in the business. So
Okay.
So
So let me thank you
you bet.
so much for being here and bringing your life and your work to my audience.
Sure. Well, you're welcome.
Foresight.
I'm happy to do it.
I really appreciate it. I hope you'll be involved in what Mark is going to be doing here at SATV. And until next time, I'm Ken Weaver for Foresight.